Hey, Derek.
Trey.
It's episode 26. We've made it through the alphabet. I cannot believe 26 straight weeks you and I have sat at this table or somewhere near here.
Somewhere.
And done the Beyond the Curve, the MX podcast. And tonight, we're finishing off the letter Z, episode 26, with a very special guest. So, Derek, introduce us.
We've been working on this a long time. Everybody, this is Matt Bell, Harding & Bell International, owner of HBI Racing. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Well, it's good to be here, man. I'm sorry it's taken so
long.
No,
it's fine. It's fine.
It's been crazy.
This guy is probably the busiest guy on the planet right now.
Yeah, we're going to dive into that.
I don't think that there is anybody that can deny that. So we're going to step aside from what everybody else wants to talk to you about, and we want to hear about Matt Bell.
Okay. All right. Well, I can answer the questions. My wife would agree with you. I'm pretty busy, so
I know
we're trying to back that down a notch or two.
Yeah. Let's start out. We know you have this pro team and you're in the playoffs. Like, welcome to motocross and supercross. You're in the playoffs. So, what's that look like this week?
Yeah. So here I'm going to hold this. So
there you go.
It's just easier for me to do it, so I can actually look at you.
Yeah, that's cool.
I don't want to side eye when I'm looking at this. So today, like this week, is going to be our first SMX race at Charlotte, which is we kind of know what to expect, but not 100%. So it's new for everybody, for the Feld guys, for the pro motocross guys. So we had our team manager meeting today at 2, and just they're trying to work out all the logistics so everybody's set up and ready to go. I have confirmed that somehow I signed both of our riders up correctly, so they are on the roster to ride this weekend. So yeah, we're ready to do it, and I'm excited for the track.
It looks awesome.
Yeah.
Like, we're racing this week. In other words, we would be there.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
The start is really interesting. So I was asking one of our guys what he thought about the start, and he's like, yeah, that's going to be interesting because you're kind of coming from both angles. I don't know if you've seen the track map, and then connecting in the middle and coming down the straight. So, yeah, it'll be a different scenario for some of those guys for sure.
And it's a wicked long track, too. Like, I was watching the track map this week, and I'm like, these guys are going to be beat.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is gnarly, and that sand section is just out of this world.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think what is going to trip a lot of people up, the main part of the track is the long rhythm section.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a quarter-mile long rhythm section, which, if you're a supercross guy, that's not huge. But there are guys who, like, qualified for the SMX rounds that did not race supercross.
Yeah.
So those guys are going to have a challenge. I mean, I could probably kind of hit most of the stuff on that track, but that rhythm lane, like the first 3 seconds, I'd be dead. So it'll be interesting to see how some of those guys handle it. I know there was a couple guys that were racing outdoor motocross that were in, like, not like directly qualified in, but were in the LCQ rounds, and I know one or two of them were like, we're not racing this because we don't race supercross, and we don't think we're going to be able to hack it.
It's a good way to get hurt. Yeah. I mean, like you said, you could hit the first 3 sections or whatever, but that's all that matters, because after that, it's all momentum at that point.
Oh, yeah.
But when you lose that momentum right off the bat, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you're done. Yeah, I mean, I could single everything all the way through or roll it.
It's 2 20-minute motos.
Yeah.
So it's basically 2 supercrosses with a 3/4 of a motocross mixed in. I mean, kind of what it looks like. So that's the end. You've made it. Congratulations, you get to travel 3 more weeks.
Hey, there you go. I know, we're excited.
But you get to go to the Coliseum. That's kind of cool.
That is going to be cool.
That is really, really cool.
So you have Ty and Caden going, correct?
That's right.
So Ty Masterpool, HBI rider, and Caden Braswell. I'm excited to see them ride. I think Ty's going to have a good time. Caden's a really good rider, too. I mean, they're both phenomenal riders.
Yeah, they've both been putting in the work. I know Ty's, he's in Texas, so they have their own training compound. I haven't really got a chance to see him ride, but I know his dad, Jerry, will put together an SMX, or has put together an SMX style track for him to train on. And then Caden has been out at Sandbox up in Claremont, so they've got kind of an SMX track set up out there for the guys. I know Roxon's been out there, and Chase Sexton and a few other guys, so they're getting geared up.
That's good.
It looks very red. Is that going to be tacky, or is that going to be deep? I can't really tell.
So I was talking with Colin Park today. Actually, he called me, not about that, but about tax stuff. And I said, "What do you think about the track?" And he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I think the dirt's going to be kind of like Atlanta." And I was like, "Well, what was that like?" And he was like, It depends on how much they water it. So if they water the piss out of it, it's going to be probably really tacky.
Yeah, turns into a tacky clay at that point.
Yeah, if they don't water it, it's going to be like baseball clay hard.
Yeah. Okay.
So it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do with that. I know it's been pretty dry up there, I think. So yeah, they're going to have to throw some water on there.
I'm wondering if they don't split it up, like totally water one side and keep one side just to make it that much more brutal, because it's already going to be brutal, and they're bragging about how gnarly these races are going to be. So
yep.
I'm anxious to see. I mean, it's all new to all of us, so I'm anxious to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I would think maybe like the rhythm lane sections, they would keep that a little drier, just so it doesn't get super rutted up. I know, like, if you guys have ever done track walk at some of the Supercross races, for me, not being anywhere near a pro rider, I think the scariest thing for me was, like, when I looked at the rhythm sections, I'm like, probably if I had enough practice, I could kind of go through here. But when you look at the ruts in between the transitions, that's scary. Like when you got foot deep ruts right down in the middle of it. So I'm kind of thinking they may leave that harder just so it holds up, and then the rest of the track have a little more tacky and loamy.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I raced Steel City MX one year. I don't know if you remember Steel City up in PA. So I raced that track one year, and the ruts there got so gnarly at that race. I mean, we're talking they would swallow your foot pegs if you didn't hit them perfectly straight. Yeah, it was, and it's every Supercross race is like that. So just to put it into perspective, we're talking the foot pegs of a bike that are a foot and a half up, just absolutely swallowing them.
Yeah, it's scary. The worst ruts I've ridden probably were at Gatorback. I think the last race I raced there, and I remember going through a couple corners on the inside, and I was dragging foot pegs through the corners. I'm like, yeah, I don't like this. not at 48 years old. I don't like this at all.
That's ironic that you say Gatorback, because when I was a kid and we used to go watch Gatorback, it was Blue Groove.
Really?
Oh yeah, I went to, I think it was the last year they had an outdoor there. Deegan, the dad, was racing. And I remember going to the Moto Triple X box van and like watching him take his shirt off and being amazed. Why does someone have a tattoo with their name on their back? And he had Deegan across his back. And
that was a thing then.
That was a thing. And that track was Blue Groove. It was not the tilled loam that it is now.
Yeah.
So they've done an amazing job. But we got the end. We're going to talk about the future. You talked a little bit about how you got into riding.
Yep.
Did you ever think, I'm Matt Bell, I'm going to own a pro team? Because you do some other stuff with amateurs. Did you ever think, hey, let's start a pro team?
No. Actually, when we started the amateur team, I'm pretty sure I said in my mind, I'm never going to own a pro team. Because, I knew how expensive it was. I didn't know. I kind of had an idea. But it just wasn't something that I guess I was really interested in doing until I started meeting some of the pro riders. Like the first one we had, Cole Bradford. He was like the first one.
Yeah, we'll talk about him here in a minute.
Yeah,
I got some good stuff to say.
Yeah, I won't get too deep into that, but I never really thought about it. When I was younger, of course, I always wanted to be a pro rider, and I wasn't good enough, like anywhere near that. So, but yeah, I mean, the cool thing about owning a pro team, I guess, is that I get to experience everything except for being on the bike and riding around the track, and I get to kind of live vicariously through those guys. So
yeah, it's awesome. So what's it like? What's the amateur team like? Because we like to cover the amateurs down here in Florida a lot. What's it like running the amateur team?
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun. We've got kind of a really varied group of amateur riders. Just this last weekend, so Caitlin Lane, who's one of the women, she raced girls and women's class at Loretta's. Awesome young lady. She's probably the toughest member of our team, to be honest with you. She has had some gnarly injuries and it's just tough. She gets right back on the bike, but she just got done racing at the Baja Brawl up there this weekend and came in third. Got a podium, which was really great. She had some trouble at Loretta's. I mean, she didn't do bad. I mean, she was up there, but the track, you guys saw how bad the track was. It was gnarly.
It was intense.
And that mud is the great equalizer. So I think she probably wasn't real prepared for that, which most people weren't. But great rider, Ben Riddle, who is our original amateur guy, former pro, 5-time Loretta's champion. He was the AMA Horizon Award winner coming out of Loretta's, Suzuki factory rider. And I never watched Ben ride because I was out of motocross for like 25 years. I didn't know who the guy was until I met him and we started talking. But just an incredible guy, and so thankful we get to be part of that. And then we've got some younger guys. So like again, Ronnie Dale Rosca, he was on 65s. He's actually a beginner rider. Won the beginner class in 65s at the I4MX series, and now he's moving up to 85s and kind of continue to move forward in that. And then a mix of other guys kind of along the way. So Jameer Scott, Adam Machia. We have a couple new riders, Talon Stanley, who is out at Moto Sandbox right now, putting in a lot of work. Just thankful to have those guys. Steven Tazo, he's working on actually getting a pro license, going to be racing A class this year. Super fast C rider, and decided to make the jump straight to A.
Wow.
That's
So
awesome.
he's good. He did really, really good in C class at Daytona this past year. So I think he'll be good, heading that way. But just an interesting mix. It's different than like the start or the Yamaha team, where they're pretty much all right B or going into pro. We try to help riders at all different levels.
That's what I love about you guys, because it's not just to focus on the pros. I know a lot of people don't understand. They hear HBI, they think Ty Masterpool right off the bat. But you guys do have a very big amateur team, and they're everywhere. We don't ride with them, but we're with a lot of the amateurs every weekend. We're at Dade City all the time. We got Gold Cup coming up. I'm sure they're going to be at pretty much all of them races. So you guys are everywhere.
Yeah, I miss Kez Maynard is another one.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of took a little bit of break for a month and was trying to he got a job, and he is a C rider, races some local C stuff, raced Minios last year, but just a great kid. So, it's not always about like where they're at as far as skill. It's a lot about their willingness to be the kind of riders we want on the team, and that's super important to us.
I have two questions on the amateur side then. Is it going to continue with the growth of the pro side?
Yeah.
Okay. Second, what are the expectations? Like when you're working with the pro guys, you kind of have that expectation of this is where we think you should be. On the amateur side, what are you looking for from them?
Yeah, so yes, it is going to continue. Last year, it's gonna look a little different. So last year, before we had the pro side, we had a group of riders, and it was almost like unlimited support, if you want to call it that. So like we paid for all the parts, bikes, pretty much whatever training they wanted to, all the entry fees. And now that we've gotten into the pro side, we've had to scale that back a little bit, just because of budget. Because I like living in a house and not a cardboard box, so it's good to try to conserve your money. But we're going to continue it. But going into this year, we're going to have like a set amount that we're going to supply to each of the riders. We're still helping with bikes and entry fees, but they're going to have to contribute probably a little more going into next year. So pretty much all the same riders that we started out with and a couple new ones are going to continue on. Like we haven't removed people from the team. But yeah, we're excited to have that continue, and the riders that are putting in the work, it doesn't necessarily mean like they have to turn pro. We always tell our riders, like I ask the question, what is your goal? And if your goal is, well, I want to be a pro rider, then I'll be like, okay, well, here's what you need to do to be a pro rider. Like you have to work your butt off, and this is the only thing you do. Yeah. Do you want to do that? And if they don't, that's awesome. That's fine, because it's to become a pro in motocross and supercross, you're giving up everything else pretty much to do that. It's a little different than I think like some team sports. Like when I played soccer, I could kind of get away with not training every single day because if you screw up, there's 10 other guys to pick you up. When you're on the motocross track, like you're the only one. So we have some guys that are, I've told straight up, I don't think you're going to make it as a pro, and that's okay. because you can still have fun racing motocross without being a pro. Like, I love getting out there and riding, and I'm not anywhere near as fast as those guys.
Yeah, it's totally understand. And I think your riders should understand, with the budget cuts and all that, because like we know where it comes from. I got a 5-year-old that asks me every week, when can I race Supercross? So like I know what it's like to try to get him through. I mean, at 5 years old, it's kind of hard. You got to watch what you can do, but you also got a kid that is driving. I mean, that's what he wants. So I know what it does to a wallet. It's unfathomable. And now that you're running a pro team, like those guys, I'm sure, and girls will understand, wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and I also tell them that, like, the money that we're investing in the pro side actually, although it'll take a couple years, it'll trickle down to them as well. So, like the sponsorships that we're building through different brands, through Kawasaki, through FXR, we've already built up some help that is helping them down on the amateur side. But they have to understand that, it's going to take a little time to do that.
It all takes time.
Yep.
That's the hardest thing with kids right now is they want it right now. And it's getting that through their head that everything takes time. It takes time to build this empire that you're creating.
Yeah, absolutely. Time and money.
Yeah, lots of money.
I guess my last question on the amateur side, on the team side, is how do you find the riders?
Honestly, some of them I just knew from racing different local race series. And then a few of them were just people that, I was out at the track, riding myself and watched them ride. Talon Stanley was one that I think I met him at Dade City. He was hanging around, I think, one of our other riders that used to be on the team, Chalice Dyers, and met him, and then just a super nice kid. Like, he was trying to raise money to be able to get to Minios last year. And what really impressed me about him was, like, he was listing, like, he had 15 or 20 of those, like, triangle stands. So he was, like, selling them on Facebook Marketplace to raise money. And then he was offering, like, oil change services and bike maintenance and just trying to get enough money to get there. And he even asked me, he's like, was there anything, that I can do for you? And I'm like, well, if you want to come out and, like, pressure wash the bikes for our guys at a Dade City race, come out and do it. And showed up, I mean, worked hard all day long. And that really impressed me that he was willing to do that. And, that he didn't think too much of himself. And so, as we went down the road, I'm like, man, this is a kid that I'd really like to have on the team. He wants to work hard. And what proved that he's the right kind of rider is, like, I was out at Sandbox the other day, and one of our mechanics was like, it was like pouring rain, it was muddy out in the track, and they were like, hey, there's some kid riding out in the track. There was like one person. Well, it was him. Like, he was out there riding, putting in the work, even in, like, crappy, muddy conditions. So that's what it takes to get to the next level, and he's wanting it.
Got to have the ambition.
That's how Tiger Woods did it. He used to practice in the rain because sometimes they play.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep.
So not only do you run the pro team, not only do you sponsor the amateur team and help with them, but you also run the trackside church services as well.
Yeah.
So we're diving deep in here to the schedule of Matt Bell. So tell me about that part of it, because I think that's the part we all see, the HBI stickers, we see people on bikes.
Yeah.
But there's another component. I've heard of you coming back from some of the pro rounds to be at the church services on Sunday at a local race.
Yeah.
So explain that to us, because I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah, so everything, like, I'll start out with this. Everything that we do involving motocross is for ministry. That's why we're doing it. So we started out, when I got back into riding, rode for about a year, and then my wife and I both felt like, the riding part's fun, but we're out at this track like 2 or 3 times a week. We need to be giving back to people while we're there. So talk with Kenny Yoho of the I4MX series. There's 2 series in Florida. Florida series, kind of, and the I4MX are both awesome series. Florida series already had, like, a track pastor out there. So I4, there was a guy that was helping out, a guy named Dan, and was doing a good job, but he couldn't make all the races. So I talked with him and talked with Kenny and kind of decided that we would be a good fit to take that over. and about 5 years ago started doing trackside services. First one was down at 74MX. It's closed now. I think it may be opening back up. I've heard rumors about that.
That's a great place. I loved it.
Yeah, it's a great track. But had 5 people the first service, and then we just getting to know people kind of built that up to where we have 70 or 80 that come down there almost every Sunday, and they just want to get some encouragement before they go ride. So it's more than just like 15 minutes of like preaching or whatever. It's, we're investing in the lives of people through the week. We'll have people reach out and like need prayer. They may have like stuff going on with their spouse. They just need to talk. So that's what we do. My wife and I. It's not just me. It's her too.
Yeah. And I've heard it. So we had Kyle McGraw on here.
Kyle's awesome.
So he was on here with the Florida series, and I've heard it out of your mouth too that you got to catch people where they are.
Yeah.
And Trey and I have talked about this week. You have to catch people where they are, and at the track, people are always having down days. And I mean, what you guys do is phenomenal because it gives an opportunity to just sit there and listen and not think about motocross. I mean, it's motocross based, it's faith based, but it gives you 15-20 minutes to just let it loose and just calm down before you start the day. It's phenomenal. I mean, if you guys get the opportunity, there's no more I-4 this year, but are you doing Triple Crown?
I am not, but so we got a guy named Alvin Moore who he's kind of filled in with me for us when we're not there. So he's going to handle the church services at the Triple Crown Series. We're going to try to make 1 or 2. We're looking at doing an HBI Racing Day at one of the I-4 Triple Crown races. And so the plan, if it works out, is to get all of our pro riders to be the mechanics for the day, and then me and the mechanics are actually the riders.
That's awesome.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, we're trying to work something out there. We'll see if we can make it happen.
You heard it first here. So that sounds awesome. But if you get the opportunity to go to the Triple Crown races and listen to your service and or say Alvin's service, you do it because it is a phenomenal time, and it just helps you think before. It's a good start to the day. It truly is. I mean, I took when you guys were at Dade. I brought my oldest up, and he really enjoyed it. They do go to a Christian private school, but he really loved it. I mean, and afterwards, can I have a donut? Of course you can have a donut. I mean,
take them all.
Yeah, it's a good time.
So I think that covers, unless I'm missing something, and if we're missing anything, let us know, because we've got the pro side, the amateur side, and the ministry side, which encompasses. We didn't even touch on the fact that part of you stepping into the pros was also being a part of the paddock, not just the team. Yeah. And now you're feeding the paddock.
Yeah. Yeah.
So talk about that, because I think that's just cool. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, that wasn't the plan going into the pro side. So, kind of like I said, everything that we do, we want there to be ministry involved in it as like the primary focus. So got to Fox Raceway, bought a bunch of tacos for our guys, bought way too much, and just went around the pits and started asking people if they wanted to come eat. And the Master Pool's one of those folks that came over, and like it clicked. I was like, yeah, this is what we're supposed to do. This is how we can give back. So, it's that piece of it on the ministry side, and then like individual conversations with the riders. They'll call me sometimes. Like even one of the riders called us when we were up in North Carolina and just wanted to talk about some stuff going on in his life, and that's what we want to be there for. Like these guys, when you see them out in the track and you're a fan, you're like, oh, they're just a guy under a helmet. But these are real people that just happen to ride dirt bikes really, really fast.
This is exactly, we've brought this up on this podcast numerous times. We had Rylan Munson on here, and that was one of my driving points. I'm like, I want everybody to realize that you are a human. Yeah. From a fan standpoint, we see it differently because we're all in this sport much deeper than the average fan, and that's all people see is a number. A green bike, a yellow bike, a red bike. That's what they see, and then they see a number on the back. So, but they are humans. They have feelings. There's a lot that's going on in the minds of these riders.
Yeah, and I think people don't realize. Since I've kind of gotten to know some of these guys, like when you're on social media, people make comments on posts, and you think, well, these guys don't care. They don't read that. They read that stuff. Yep. Yeah. And it affects them when they're reading those things.
That one comment's all it takes.
Yeah, I mean, they look at that stuff, and so I've been more careful about like how critical I've been of people and the way I'm commenting on pro riders, because you start to, there's a face to just the guy riding around the track in a helmet.
And I think to add to that, and you have a perspective now on it, on all sides, because you have the amateur and the pro. I look at it this way: we see those guys, and we watch them ride helmets. We can't see anything of them, and they look like warriors.
Yeah.
And then they take off their helmets, and they're like, that's the guy that was riding that bike. Like, not to be critical, some of them are scrawny, some of them are short, some of them are these lanky, and you're like, that's the guy that they are, these warriors that we see. But they take off the helmet and put on regular clothes, and they're just a normal. Matt and I are more built than most of those guys.
Yeah, it's surprising. I mean, now some of them are,
they're big guys.
But they are normal people. I remember seeing Jet and Hunter Lawrence in the airport, and they were like playing rock paper scissors to try to come up with. I don't know what they were doing. They were over there just screwing around, but you see that they're just like normal people.
And we lose that perspective. I'm a huge car racing fan, and we've had the opportunity to have lunch with drivers just in the hospitality area. One of them, all they wanted to do, my daughter wanted to talk about his socks, and all he wanted to do was talk to her about horse jumping, because that's what his sister does.
Right.
And I'm like, that guy's like, my wife and I are over here eating, and my, I think at the time, 10, 11-year-old daughter is over shooting the breeze with James Hinchcliffe talking about horse jumping, and I'm like, they're just normal dudes. They just happen to be really good at something.
Yeah.
So, and you get to see that, but you also get to see it on the management side of the sport itself. We see these people that are famous, and you see them, they're just normal dudes.
Yeah.
What's that intimidation factor like, going up into the manager's tower?
Yeah, I remember the first time I went up there, and Roger DeCoster was standing up there, and Lars from HRC, and I looked over at Roger DeCoster, and I finally got the courage. I gave him the kind of, what's up, dog? I don't think he really liked that a whole lot.
Probably not.
I keep threatening I'm going to fist bump him before the end of the season. I might. Who knows? I might do it at the SMX round. We'll see.
There you go.
I'll tell you guys if I do it. But I mean, those guys are. I mean, they're incredible people. They've been around the sport a long time, and it is intimidating when you're first up there. But I mean, I just have to remember, like, we're new in this whole thing, and I don't have a problem with that. I'll tell everybody, I'm like, hey, we're the ones spending the money, so obviously we're going to make the final decisions, but we're not too proud to take advice. Mm-hmm. And even from some of the riders and their parents, we want to hear what their opinion is. We may not necessarily agree with it and do it, but we want to take that into consideration, because we don't know probably 10% of what this whole thing's about. Like, we're just getting into it. So
it's a big world on the business side of it. I mean, it is huge, and you know firsthand that, like we said, that you see it from a fan standpoint, but then there's the other side of it where it is a business.
Yeah.
And people lose sight of just those little things so easily.
It's either a business or a charity. I think in a business you're supposed to make money, but
well, someone's making money.
Somebody is making money.
It
ain't me.
And that's the part too. You mentioned in one of the recent podcasts. By the way, for follow-up interviews, go to Chris Cooksey Media. He did a great interview with Chris Cooksey, and you were just on Vital MX with that crew. So we're not like breaking a lot of news here. We're kind of diving into some of the stuff that you already expounded on. And you had mentioned you had a great. I think it's Mike Bianchi. Is that what's the
Mike Bonacci?
Mike Bonacci.
Yeah.
I always get his name confused.
I think Bonacci's a baseball player, maybe, but
Bonacco was that stuff used to spray in the mouth like in the 80s.
But Club MX, and you were talking because one of the guys asked you what your goal is, and I was so excited to hear there's a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
And that can change, and you could wake up one day and say, Darla, I'd like to go hang out in the mountains and be done. And some of the business people I follow, they're the same way. They're like, this is what I love, but I might wake up and be done. Yeah. But 5-year plan, and you're getting counsel from other teams, which you talked about of they don't do that. You mentioned you don't want to have a facility, but you like that Club MX model. How do you then grow your model the way you want to?
Yeah, so I think the reason why I don't want a facility is because I don't want to run something else. Mm-hmm. Like the race team, I enjoy that part of it. the facility side of it is more of like that's the money making piece.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think if there was ever an opportunity to do something like that where it would help support the team, then maybe that would be down the road. Right now, in fact, we talked with Mike before about he invited us to come check out Club MX and train up there, which is awesome. We've decided we've made a commitment to Sandbox right now to stay there, for the near future, and they've been really, really good to us. And there's some great people out there. I mean, when you have Ken Roxon, you've got Kyle Chisholm, Chase Sexton, Tom Vial, Levi Kitchen. I mean, all those guys are training out at Sandbox, and our guys get to be around those guys. So, some of that's going to rub off on our guys, and so we love just not having to deal with any of the running side of it. I don't know how to build a track anyway, but who knows? Maybe one day down the road. But we're really, really happy with Stacy and Jason Baker, what they're doing, and they're awesome track builders, and I appreciate their commitment to us.
So is there an avenue, since that's not the direction, and I think about when I was fortunate to be with Mazda for a while, I got to sit with their marketing department, and they approached their marketing about growing Mazda.
Right.
Was they solved problems. They had mobile Castrol as a sponsor because they solved a problem for Castrol.
Yeah.
IHG Hotels became a sponsor because they solved a turnover problem for them.
Okay.
And that's how so you're from the business world.
Yeah.
And if the avenue of running a facility isn't how you want to bring in money, it doesn't always want to come out of Matt Bell's pockets.
No.
So how do you take that business savvy and turn that into your marketing strategy?
Yeah, so I think we're trying to bring in a lot of sponsors from outside of the industry. The tough thing and I knew this wasn't going to happen, but I think a lot of people think, well, you get into pro motocross, you buy a rig, you get some really fast riders, and then people are just going to start throwing cash at you. That does not happen because I've not been given $1 of cash yet. Yeah. I mean, we did get some cash on the amateur side, some different people, but nothing like what it takes to run a pro supercross and motocross team. So there is some opportunity within the industry to get paid by people. I mean, not money making, but to help offset expenses. But I think for me, a really good way to do it is bring in sponsors from outside the industry, which means people who love motocross and supercross that own businesses that aren't, gear guys and making motorcycles. And so I think we may have one or two that we're talking to that could be pretty substantial coming into supercross. And that's a big thing for us because we can still run a team. I mean, with our business, we can run a supercross and a motocross team, but are we going to be able to be as competitive as some of those other guys without it? Probably not, because people don't realize all the intricacies of building a competitive race bike. Like Star Yamaha and Pro Circuit and all those guys, I mean, they have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in their engine development. We've never developed an engine. So we have to rely on guys that know how to build it. And to do that, you have to spend, $12,000, $15,000 on all kinds of really trick parts from overseas that you can't even buy here. And then you have to buy them way in advance to be prepared for Supercross. And, that's something that we want to have a bike that like a Caden Braswell can jump on in the 250 class, being as big of a kid he is, and not feel like he's just getting pulled all over the track. Yeah. So that's where that outside sponsor money comes in, because if somebody comes in and they're like, hey, here's $250,000 or $500,000, well, now I can go buy those, cranks from Europe and the cams from Europe and the titanium connecting rods and all that stuff that's going to give us that edge to really make a super fast bike.
It's hard for you to build an $80,000 bike. Yeah. The factory bikes are not cheap bikes. I mean, people go to a dealership and they're like, it's $12,000 bike. Yeah, the bike stock is $12,000, but all said and done, you're talking $60,000. Yeah. Minimum for a factory bike.
Well, the three of us can sit at this table, and we all go. You two are Kawasaki guys, and maybe you can transfer me over to that at some point, but I'm a Yamaha guy. And we buy our bikes, and then we put our handlebars on, and then we get the suspension done. But then we're good.
Yeah.
We're good. We might do some bling stuff because it looks cool. But for you buy a bike, and then you take that bike and you disassemble it.
Yeah.
So that there's a frame, and then you start adding on those pieces. So basically, you're just buying the bike so you can take it apart.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
And-
we
and-
try to get them in crates if we can.
Yeah,
So you don't have to worry about
Yeah.
it.
it's the best way to do it.
But as you build that forward, that's one of the things I wanted to kind of backtrack on, because I want to continue on the sponsorship thing, is those bikes that, do you feel that you can get more value from that 250 side, because they say it's so expensive? Do you feel like maybe we better off just to be a 450 team?
Yeah, so you're all right. Like 450s are a lot easier to make competitive. Like the Star team, there's a lot of rumors that fly around. You hear rumors that they paid, I won't say who the engine builder is, but paid them hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop that engine. Yep. That's what I've heard. Well, we don't have that, and we don't have the time to do it. So yeah, 450 is a way to do it. I mean, you look at Ty Masterpool, what he did in the 450 class it was really a stock engine.
Yeah.
Now, he does have a Pro Circuit engine right now that he's running. It's not Pro Circuit like Monster Energy Kawasaki. I mean, he does not have a factory engine.
No, it's not
in this bike.
factory,
No.
but
Like this is a like Pro Circuit's parts you can buy. You or I can buy off their website.
I'm glad you're differentiating that, because
Yeah.
people heard that, they're like, he's got a Pro Circuit engine now.
No,
it's not the same bike.
not
It
the
is
same bike.
not the same bike.
There's
Ported, polished. There's some parts that we go online and we buy those and then put them on.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, you can't. There's stuff in those factory bikes that you and I cannot buy. Like I can't buy the $15,000 titanium crank that's in the Honda bikes, supposedly, and probably in the other ones. So, yeah, I mean, the 450 would be the way to go if we could. The issue you've got is like riders like Cole Bradford. They can't ride 450 Supercross because Cole has not made a main event
Correct.
yet. Okay. So like outdoors, you can jump right into the 450 class. You're good. Indoors, doing Supercross, you have to start out in 250 class and make a main event. So Cole couldn't do it anyway. He'd have to be in the 250 class. Caden, we kind of toyed around with that a little bit, but I don't think he's quite ready for that. Even though he's a bigger guy, handling a 450 on a Supercross track is an animal, even for a guy his size. So I think he wants to do 250 again this year. I mean, Hardy, he'd launch himself into the stratosphere.
Hardy will just full send it no matter what it is. He don't care.
We actually talked about that. We actually talked about that off record about Hardy, and I'm like, maybe, and he's like, no.
Yeah, I mean, he's an awesome rider, and we tested a 450 with him, and he liked it initially, but he's such a light guy. I mean, he weighs probably 140 pounds and a smaller rider, so that's a lot to manhandle around a track, even for a guy my size. I'm 165, so I think we're gonna for now stick with 250s. Other than like the plan would be going into Supercross Ty Masterpool on a 450. That he rides that bike better than a 250. He doesn't feel like he's having to wring its neck the whole way around, and that makes him smoother around the track. But the other guys, we're just going to have to stick with 450 or 250 and then bite the bullet and build some nasty race engines. And so I had a conversation just today with JMX, Williams Performance over on the coast, and we're working on some development of a Supercross engine and bringing in a tuner that's all he does is tune bikes, get it where we need to be, and then hopefully have something really, really awesome rolling into next year.
And Matt won't say it, and I won't say it either, but the company that may have built those engines also used to build engines for Ford back in their Formula One days. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah,
they know how to build them.
So do some research and find that company name, and you'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's no controversy that that is one of the premier engine builders. It'd be like having an Ilmor engine. If you could go to Penske and say, "Hey, Roger, can you build us an engine?"
Yeah.
They have a company that's what they do.
Yep.
Every Chevy racing engine that comes from IndyCar is actually an Ilmor engine built in England.
Yeah. Well, this particular engine builder. I almost bought one for my Subaru. I used to be like a tuner car guy, and they sell $25,000 engines you can buy for your Subarus too.
So yeah, we won't mention the name, but you can do the research and you can find that you too could also. When my dad raced cars, they used to buy Penske heads from England, and I'll never forget they were in the garage in the race shop putting the engine together. My grandfather had the track record at Talladega, an MGB that would do 175 miles per hour.
Wow!
On the banking, they put the new head on, drove to Texas. He went out and blew the engine on the first lap.
Wow!
Thank you for buying my part, and you can buy another one now.
Oh my gosh!
So it's exactly what you guys are going through with that. But next part of this journey.
Well, back to the sponsorship thing, because I know what it's like as an amateur dad trying to pull in sponsorship. It is brutal, and trying to offset the expenses that are brutal. You know, it's brutal. Period. No matter how you go about it. How do you approach sponsorship, like from an amateur and a pro standpoint? Like, is there a special approach that you use to pull sponsorship in, or you just kind of reach out and hope for the best?
Because it's got to be different, right?
Yeah, well, it's kind of the same, just on the pro side. You know, like you're out there a little more, right? So there's TV coverage. You don't have that on the amateur side. But, well, it is different. Let's back up. So on the amateur side, how I got sponsorship was really I just threw out a Facebook page post and was like, hey, we're starting an amateur team. Do you want to have your name on the bike? And a lot of local businesses would, gave us $1,000 here, $500 there. A couple of people gave us $5,000. Premium Outdoor Products was one of them that gave us a good chunk of money. And a client of mine, Derac and Trey, who owns a football club in England, gave us some money. So those guys did, give us some cash on the amateur side, which was helpful. But on the pro side, like, you're trying to get bigger numbers, right? Because you're not talking about $100,000 to do the whole thing. You're talking about $1 million.
Yeah.
So I would go. I went on the internet and just started searching sponsors that deal with motorsports, and I'd reach out to them, send them an email. I would try to figure out what email to send it to, and if it was Mission Foods, I know they do a lot of motorsport stuff. So you can't find an email address, so I would just send an email out to marketing at Mission Foods and sales at Mission Foods.
You never get a response.
Yeah, I would never get a response. Sometimes I did, which was surprising. I sent a few out, and I didn't ever expect to hear back. I sent an email to Liquid Death. I don't know if you the water company, and the guy answered me right back, and he's like, "Hey, appreciate you reaching out, but we're not really doing any kind of sponsorship for anybody." And that's just the way we're doing our marketing. But then really what I found in the industry on the pro side is that the email can sometimes work, but it's more face-to-face talking with people. You're not going to get somebody to write you a check for $500,000 on an email normally. And a couple guys were people that just walked up to our pits actually at Ironman and said, hey, I love what you guys are doing. And of course, Ty Masterpool is the one that everybody kind of sees out there killing it right now. And we have some other really, really good riders, but Ty is the one that's the standout. So they really like him, like what he's doing, and so we have some conversations coming up pretty soon, and that's how we're trying to pull him in.
Okay, I don't want to get struck down or blasphemous, but I want to talk about the non-endemic, but I also want to talk about you do have this ministry side.
Yeah.
Is that not a draw for some of these companies that are out there? Is that something that you hate to use that as a draw, but that is a draw, isn't it?
I think it is for some people, and I think some people it would push them away. So, there are some manufacturers out there that do not want a rider who is really open about their faith. I'll just say that.
Okay.
There's some non-factory teams that have straight up told riders we don't want you to say that on the podium.
Really?
Yeah. So there's a balance there. There's some folks two of the guys that I talked to at Ironman. I mean, the faith part of it was a big draw for them. But then you've got other like manufacturers that are like, we don't like that. We don't want that out there because we want to keep things more secular. We don't want to try to alienate anyone. And I get that. I understand like where they're coming from, but I also think that if people realize like we're not saying what you're doing is bad. Like we're not pushing anything on you. We're just trying to tell people, hey, this is what we believe. This is why we're doing this, and we love you guys, and we want to show that. So I think it can be a draw, and I think it can push people away depending on who it is.
Makes sense. I appreciate that explanation because I was thinking like there's kind of, you hate to say it, but there's kind of like a built-in thing, but it may not be a positive.
Yeah.
On the non-endemic side with those sponsors, what is your value proposition? How do you? Great, I love racing. It's awesome. I want to go. I want to go watch, but what am I getting for it?
Yeah. So you have a combination there. You got people who they don't really care about getting anything back, and they love the sport and just want to sit in the pits and shoot the bull with the riders and get their credential, which is cool. We'd love to take their money. We'll take anybody's money. But there's also those people that are like, one of the guys that we met with, he's a food guy. He sells food. I'll just say that. They manufacture food. And so he's like, man, I can see our product being really, really good at the races because like the people who we're trying to go after, our demographic, are like college age guys and girls. And so this food is something that I think like if it's on the side of your truck, then we can make some money off this, and we're going to get a return on our investment. So for that guy, if we work something out, I mean, we'll put our riders in a freaking taco suit or whatever we got to do.
I thought he said college age kids. I was thinking they're going after the ramen noodle sponsorship.
Hey, we'll take that too.
Well, yeah. I've done some thought through your sponsorship stuff, and I feel like one of their warehouses is in Orlando, so I kind of have an idea of potentially.
Yeah.
And they would go well with Mission Foods.
Yeah. Yeah, very well could.
So, but no, we don't.
Not to dig into that anymore.
We're not digging into that, but I'm just, we start, that's what we do is we kind of like play this game of, because we think about it on our side of like, dude, how can I bring about, as a 51-year-old man going to do the Enduros next year, how can I bring value? If I tell a story, we're in real estate, can I go to the real estate companies and tell a story about what's going on in those towns? And that's kind of what I'm wondering, because you are a business person. That's what you do. You run a successful business. How do you bring those tools to this industry?
Yeah, and it's important to be able to bring value back to people, I think. Yeah. Like when somebody comes to me and they want us to sponsor an event, like with our company, I mean, sometimes it's just because we want to give back. Like that's to help build a business relationship. And other times I'm thinking in my head, well, if I spend $25,000 to do, like we're going to Portugal, my brother is going to Portugal in a couple weeks for an event that we have a money exchange company that we are kind of partner with, and so they're doing an event over there, and like, okay, that $5,000 or $10,000 we're spending, like what kind of return are we going to get on that? So I think the outside sponsors, especially, well, the industry guys too, but the ones coming in from outside, like this food manufacturer we're talking about, he's thinking in his head, well, if I spend $100,000 or $250,000 or $500,000, like, am I going to get a return on it? And I think there's that balance there. So I think bringing in, because I'm a CPA and bringing in the business side, I think I have a lot more, I think I can explain it to people a little better than the guy that is in the industry that, used to ride dirt bikes and probably doesn't have any background in business. And I'm hoping that's what's going to kind of set us above a lot of the other guys that are going out there and trying to get the same business.
Because we want to see this succeed. Like I said, I'm a huge fan, and we have Mario Goslin Raislin, which they run the Xfinity series, and they're literally 5 minutes. I can hear when I go to Circle K, I can hear them running the cars.
Yeah.
On the what they call that, the tie down rack or whatever, they're getting ready to go, and I can hear them, and it's like, now we have a motocross team, supercross team that's based right here, and I want to succeed, and so does Derac, and it's like, okay, how are they doing it? And what can we learn from it as we're kind of going through this journey of building this out, and his kid racing and me still being involved? And it's like, okay, what are they doing? What lessons can we learn? And we're just kind of looking from afar, I guess, is what way we look at it. But we cheer, and it's like, oh, I remember the first time I saw the HBI logo when they were scrolling across the line. I'm like, that's so. I took a picture and sent it to them. I'm like, there it is. Like, there it is.
That's what I love about it. Like, I think I met you probably about 2 years ago now, somewhere in there. I mean, I don't even remember how we first met.
We met through Mark Jones.
That's right. Yeah.
So Mark Jones is a British guy.
Correct. And they came. My wife was having a yard sale or something like that, and then we just started talking, and then the rest is history. We're sitting right here.
Wait, you're normal? You're a yard sale people? You're normal?
I'm not a yard sale.
No.
This guy, Mark Jones guy.
Yeah.
I'd rather chew my arm off than go to yard sales or sell things. Like I told my wife, we're never doing a yard sale. I'm gonna burn it in the backyard before I do that.
My wife is like my wife and my mom together. You put them two together on a weekend, it's like, would you stop spending money on the people's junk? I mean, just enough. But anyway, we got to talking. I met you through him, and you guys were like just getting into it at that point. So I've kind of been there from start to now. So it's like this is my passion project, but it's almost like that is too. Like I get to follow your passion project, and it's really exciting for me because you're right here. Yeah,
I hope we can bring some of the kind of the insider stuff to people too, because that's something like people. I look through forums and like people will say, "Well, I think this is going on," and I'll be like, "Well, I'm running a pro team. That isn't right. Like here's how it works." And I've even told people on some of the pages and forums, "Hey, if you have questions about like how this whole thing works, I mean, ask away. I mean, I'll try to answer it as best as I can."
And that's why we have you here, because nobody gets to hear like we talked. I think it was last week. Our sport's very secretive.
Yeah.
But there's a select few of us that are willing to actually talk about the sport, because talking about it grows the sport.
Absolutely.
It's the secrecy that is killing the sport.
I think so too.
So it's nice to be able to sit and actually talk about it. It's like, I don't want to sit and grind about HBI Racing. Like, you're here to we're going to talk about HBI Racing, but you're in it, and it's the inside perspective that nobody really gets to hear. So that's kind of that's what we strive to do, is open the sport back up.
Yeah, absolutely, and that brings in more fans, and it makes it like you were saying, it kind of brings a perspective to each of the riders and how the teams operate, and it's really cool to be able to do that. Yeah,
and we got some stuff coming up in 2024 that we haven't announced yet. I know that I'm gonna try to really push that subject and open it up, and let people see what it's like, a day in the life of Supercross.
Well, I only have 3 questions because I want to get you out of here, but 2 of them are going to be quick. But one, you talked on one of the interviews about wanting to go to a semi versus what you have now.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious because I tell Derek all the time, I'm like, man, there's got to be a better way to do this. Is the semi just the most efficient way to move it around? Or is it just because you have a cool setup?
Yeah.
What makes you want to go that route?
So the reason why we started out with the toter home setup that we have right now, my original idea, which didn't last very long, was that we were going to send the 3 mechanics in the toter home around the country, just drive the thing, and then we'd fly the riders in and out. Mm-hmm. What I didn't realize is that these riders expect to actually have a mechanic when they're practicing. So, my bad. And these guys do not know how to work on their own bikes.
No, they're made to ride the bikes.
Yeah, some of them have tried, and it was very expensive when they tried to work on their own bikes. I'm just going to leave it at that.
We won't say numbers or names.
Yeah, we'll leave that out. But and I think having 3 guys in a toter home for weeks on end, they were ready to kill each other. So that ended really quick. That was going to be the money saving thing. We'd say, oh, we don't have to pay for hotels. They'll just stay there. And it worked for a little bit, and it was a good way to start. But I like the setup we have, actually. I think it works kind of good. But the semi thing, the reasoning behind that is that some of these bigger sponsors, especially in the industry, and even the manufacturers, if we wanted to be a satellite team for Kawasaki, for instance, they're going to want a semi with a full awning set up for us to be able to do that. Okay. So I remember hearing the Rocky Mountain ATV team, I think before all that big thing crashed and burned, that was something that I believe KTM was requiring of them, was to buy a full semi, full awning, because they want to have that particular pit presence. And so going to the semi, it kind of gives you more of a presence in the pits. Right now, like when we're looking at the super motocross races, like when you look at the parking order, we're not even on it. Like you have Honda and Yamaha and all these other guys, and then it's like, oh, if you're not on this list, well, just park after 11 a.m. So all these guys are getting kind of the premium spot for the fans to come in.
Wait, your rider's like in top 10.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize is it's like part of it's the rider, how fast they are, and then the other part of it's the pit presence. So they're not going to park us probably right beside HRC. They're going to park like Firepower Honda and HRC beside each other, because Firepower Honda and Phoenix is another one. They're racing SMX. They'll all be together. Star and Monster Energy Yamaha, and probably like Rock River and Club MX. They're all kind of Yamaha.
Yep.
They'll be parked together. Like, we don't currently have an affiliation with a factory team, so we get to be out like with the other guys that don't have an affiliation. So if we had a semi, we would be parked closer to those other guys and have higher of a pit presence, which then makes the folks who are wanting to sponsor, oh, well, you're right across from Progressive and Ken Roxon's there, and they're going to see you right when they get an autograph from Ken Roxon. So
yeah,
that's the reasoning behind the semi, is really the pit presence. I don't think it's necessarily more efficient or better. It's just that
the next building block.
It's the next building block, yeah.
Okay. And my other question was, and I forgot the third, so it's not important. You are a massively busy person. You run a company. You're also, is it a pastor or preacher? Which?
Oh, either one.
Okay.
Yeah, take your pick.
He's a pastor. I had the opportunity to listen to you preach on Sunday, and it was cool because I learned something about your family.
Speaking of that, he does host a Bible study Monday nights. We usually record on Monday nights, so I miss it every week. But I've been to a couple of them. Find us for the link. Get you for the link. It's a really cool experience as well. You got a lot of pro riders in there that everybody just comes together, and it's
Caden's usually on there, and Colin Park, and we have a few other guys show up. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So you have the team, 2 teams, business. You're a pastor. You have a missionary that you work with your wife.
Yep.
You sing, which I don't know me. Yes, Matt Bell sings. So I have to ask, do you dance?
I do not dance.
You do not dance. So there is
Baptists
something you don't do.
Well, and I'm white too, so I don't dance.
I'm gonna guess if some dancing sponsorship come along, Matt Bell dances.
I'll do whatever.
so how, as a business person, and both of us operate smaller businesses, the balance, there's no such thing as balance. How do you maintain the healthy marital relationship that you have and do all the things you do?
Yeah, that is the toughest thing, I think, out of everything we do. So how we maintain the balance is, I would say, my wife is very good. Darla is awesome about reeling me back in when I'm like past that point, and I'm getting better at finding out like when I'm getting to the breaking point. And so you have to make time for each other. That's the first thing. Like we were planning on going to all 3 SMX rounds, and like I started looking at Chicago, and I'm like, I told her today, I'm like, we can't go to Chicago. Like we have got to, like, I've got to do some taxes, number one.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. But we need to take a break and just like chill out for a week in between those races. So she is really good at keeping me grounded. And then I think all the people around, like the employees of our business, we have a great guy who's a managing director who was calling me a minute ago and probably wanting something. Jeff Hammond is awesome.
Sorry,
Jeff. He's not on Facebook, so he won't hear this. But and then guys that are with the team. So like Chris Alley, he's a friend of mine who was with FCA Motocross and came on board to be the chaplain, and kind of he acts as team manager when I'm not there. He doesn't get paid anything right now, other than like we pay his expenses, but we hope to pay him one day to do that. So having those people around, that's the only way we can do it. I mean, everybody has to have their job, and I think that's how we're able to balance those things.
Because I asked that because Sunday you preached, and then you and I were talking after the service, and you're like, yeah, I've got to go to Sandbox and deliver some parts. I'm like, time out. Hold on, wait. You don't have you don't have someone that can just go do that for you.
Yeah.
So like you're doing this. You're literally doing this grind while running a business that's successful enough to operate a professional team. I commend that, but I'm also, my wife runs our business, and I look at her and I'm like, she's going to tell me to stop at some point.
Yeah. We want to build up to where I'm not running parts to Sandbox on a Sunday afternoon. So, like, that's one thing that we talked about. Caden's dad, David Braswell, has been really good about kind of giving advice on, like, where the next steps of where we need to be. So, like, one thing we're looking at is, at some point, like, I'm the team owner. We have a team manager that's kind of full-time, and then we also have a crew chief. So, like, the crew chief is the guy who, directs the mechanics when they're at the race. He's the guy that's making sure, like, we have all the parts on the truck. You don't see that when you're at the race, but, like, when you're at a race and you realize, oh, we didn't realize that we only have 5 gallons of fuel left and we're 2,000 miles away from home base.
Yeah.
Or we didn't stock enough clutch plates. Like, there's so many things that you have to be paying attention to, and there has to be someone who's in charge of that. So that's where we're trying to get to, besides the semi, is having people that besides me that are taking care of those things, so I'm not running 1,000 different miles an hour. Because right now I'm the parts guy. I'm getting the travel. Like, I booked hotels and rental cars. I'm making sure that we have food at the track. Chris does some of that, but I'm doing a little bit of everything, and when you do that, you start making mistakes. So we're working on trying to get designated people to do that, especially going into Supercross.
I remember my last question. So what you have done is truly amazing, cool. You're giving opportunities, what the sport needs. You're striving to bring in those non-endemic sponsors, which is something that we're both interested in, that aspect of it. And we talked a little bit about the 5-year plan. What's your goal? Do you want that? Would you accept hey, we're the Kawasaki satellite team? Because they don't have one.
Yeah. We'd love that.
Yeah.
I don't know if Kawasaki wants that or not. I mean, that's something that they have to decide. The thing that's tricky about some of these factory teams is that they would rather invest their money into, like, adding on an extra rider for Pro Circuit or Monster Energy as opposed to giving us money. And I don't know, Kawasaki may be willing to do that. I mean, we're always that's where we want to get to. We would love to be a satellite team and get more parts help from Kawasaki, for instance. But I think for me, like, looking at it from a business standpoint, if I was trying to sell that to Kawasaki, I'd say, well, yeah, I mean, you could take your $250,000 and buy one more rider, or you could give it to us, and you're going to get a team of 4 riders, and you're actually getting more money, more bang for your buck, because I'm putting in like $750,000 to your $250,000, and you're getting a Kawasaki team with a guy who's top 10 every week, and a Caden Braswell, who I think is a top 10 guy in 250, and a Hardy Munoz, who's a guy that I think is a potential top 10 guy in 250 class. So
he's proven that. Yeah,
I mean, he's gotten there. So I mean, that would be my sales pitch to those guys. But I'm not. Yeah. I don't run the business. So we'll see what they come up with.
So I'm done. I'm gonna quit so you can finish up.
No, I think it's fantastic. And like I said, I was going to bring up Cole Bradford earlier. I want to give you a hats off to him because the OG HBI guy.
Yeah.
He actually trained Bowen, our son, here a couple weeks ago.
Oh, awesome.
Just up at the C's house.
Sweet.
And the kid's phenomenal with kids. Absolutely phenomenal. Like, I have not had the pleasure to meet Cole before that. We worked with a lot of other riders, but they said that Cole was coming, and we decided to go up there. And he is a phenomenal kid. So I just want to give you hats off to that. Like, if he would stick to that training stuff too, like, he would go really far in that. He's got this way of he is a kid, but he's got this way of connecting with the kids as well that they just listen to him.
He's a good sign spinner too.
He is a good sign spinner. He's a hilarious guy. Like he is. Like I told him, like, he's obviously injured right now, and I said, hey, do you want to go to an SMX race? And he's like, well, yeah. And he was talking about going to Anaheim, and then he was like, well, I'll just go to Charlotte. So I said, well, send me your picture and I'll get you a credential because we have some extra ones. And he sends me this, like, I don't know what, it's something off a Snapchat filter or something. And I'm like, here. He's like, use this one, and he's like, or you can use this real one. This has got a beauty filter on it. And I'm like, well, I'll let you figure out which one I'm going to use for your credential. But he is hilarious, really, and he is a great trainer. So like, if anybody needs training for their kids while he's injured, hit him up he's on Instagram mainly under Cole Bradford, but he is a great guy, and I'm looking forward to him getting back on the Supercross track because, I mean, he is very appreciative and he wants it. Like he wants to get there, and I think he's gonna make some waves in Supercross this year.
I agree. He's, like I said, he's a really good kid. I was really happy that we had the opportunity to work with him. So.
I have so many other questions, but I want to respect your time, so I want to get you out of here. But I would love to maybe once you kind of get the season going for next year and you know your plans, and I'd love to sit back down to talk about that preparation, what you've learned this year you're going to use for next year, and kind of, hey, this is what we're doing and this is how we're doing it. And because I've got, I mean, I could sit for hours. I love talking with race people about their business, but I also know you probably need to sleep.
Yeah, every once in a while. It's good to try to go to sleep. Yeah, but I'd love to get back on here and give some insight to that. I mean, we've made a lot of mistakes, and a lot of them that aren't really visible to people that I sweat over. It'd be good to get into some of that and talk about the things that we realized we could have done better during the year, and hopefully we'll do the same thing going next.
And those relationships you've built. You built some really cool relationships. You mentioned in one of the podcasts about the FXR relationship. I had no idea, because I was actually thinking, before that, I was like, dude, this canvas thing would be kind of cool to like build that out. Yep. I was like, but then you talked about that relationship of calling Andy and saying like, this is what we're doing, and they were Johnny on the spot. And so I appreciate that. As much as it would be cool to kind of build your own stuff, you have this relationship built in.
And their FXR is awesome. Like I'll plug them because they've done a lot for us, but not only us, like the I4MX series, like we give out gear kits, or they do, to the winners of each class, and so FXR has given us huge discounts to buy gear for all those guys, which is awesome, and Andy's been a huge part of that. And
I've actually been looking into switching our gear sponsor to FXR just because of the personalities of them. It's all about relationships and being personable to me.
They love privateer guys, and like I met the owner in a hotel in Houston. I walked into a hotel, real quick story, at like 11:30 at night. We missed our flight. I'd come into this hotel in Houston with I think it was an FXR like plaid jacket on, something you'd see up north. And these two guys are in the lobby. I'd never met Andy White before. I mean, I think I'd seen him on Facebook, but these two guys are in the lobby, and I'm like, hey, I said, hey, nice jackets, guys. They had some FXR jackets on. And they're like, oh yeah, you must be from up north. You got the plaid jacket on. I'm like, no, I'm from Florida. And I was like, yeah, we have a amateur team, and FXR sponsors us a little bit. And one guy was like, well, who's your rep? And I'm like, it's Andy White. And he's like, yeah, that's me. And so I'm talking to him, and I'm like, oh, it's good to meet you. And he's like, yeah, this is Milt. He's the owner of FXR, and got to talk with him, and super nice guy. He raced at Loretta's this past year. Still races, and he's obviously fast if he's making Loretta's. But they're a great company, and the gear is awesome too. It's like wearing pajamas. The pants are like wearing pajamas.
So on the track. Are you gonna maybe get into the snowcross scene?
No, absolutely not. No, I'm going to stay out of that. I'm going to stick with the dirt stuff.
That was my last question. You have the racing, you have business, you have a wonderful relationship with your wife. What do you do for fun?
This stuff. I love running, like building stuff, like building teams, building businesses. That's what I enjoy doing. I like hunting and hiking. I do a lot of that too. And in my free time, my wife and I love doing that. We do that for fun, but
what's the longest hike you've been on?
We did a 5-day, 50-mile hike up in Colorado. Yeah, almost killed me.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
I have a buddy that hikes, and he wants to do the one in Yellowstone where it's 31 miles out to the station.
Yeah.
The most desolate place that's manned in the U.S. It's 31 miles from the highway to the ranger station.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and he's like, it'll be a 3-day hike for me. And I'm like, I'll go with you if you want to go. Like,
It's awesome. It's fun to hike, and it's like when you think you're gonna get eaten by a bear. I mean, that's exhilarating, right?
Sure.
That's peaceful.
Sure.
Absolutely peaceful. I mean, I'm from Pennsylvania, so that's normal. But
Yep.
it is being out in nature is so peaceful. I mean, I personally can't sit and not think about anything, but
Yeah.
it gets you away from everything. But we really appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to add?
I think that's it. I appreciate all the questions. It was really good. I appreciate y'all having me.
Anything that you want to break today? Any big news you want to break today?
Any news that I want to break?
I mean, we would love to have. I mean, we've got you on video, so like we would love to. Like,
Man, there is nothing yet. I mean, we have things in the background I can't announce yet, so we'll see.
Here.
Like it comes down to be honest with you, if we get some of these larger sponsors in, that's where we're going to be able to change things a little bit.
That's cool.
We have another rider we're kind of looking at. We'd like to bring on, but it's going to take some outside sponsorship to do that. So I'm going to hold off on that, making any announcements. But
I thought I'd try. I had to try.
That's all right.
I had to try. I mean, I got to be a media guy, right?
That's right.
Try.
Yeah.
But no, we want to thank you. And before we leave, let's mention, because I think it's important, the outside stuff. What's the shoebox ministry that you guys do?
Yeah.
I would like to hear more about that, because that is something that, hey, I run this team, but oh, by the way, we do this really cool thing for kids.
Yeah, so my wife Darla has been involved in that. It's Operation Christmas Child. It's a kind of a side ministry of Samaritan's Purse. So they go do, like when you had the hurricane hit, they send trucks and like planes to basically bring in relief to those places, water, food, everything those people need. But Operation Christmas Child's like an extension of that. So they pack, I'm going to get the number wrong, but I think last year was 14 million shoeboxes that they delivered with toys to kids in other countries. That's so awesome. These are like Dollar Tree type toys that kids here wouldn't want, but like a kid in another country who's never had a toy, like that's huge for them. Like they'll take the box and make it into something.
Yeah.
So she's been involved in that, and I have as well for probably 25 years. And where our house is in North Carolina, it's right near Boone. And there's a reason for that, because the Operation Christmas Child kind of operations center is right there. And so we want to be a part of that more. We volunteer there every winter, and the guys on our team, they packed shoeboxes at the camp we did, and it's just an awesome ministry. Just to see these kids get excited about getting a toy that they never got, and it just brings some hope into their lives when they may not have had any hope. So yeah.
I wanted to get that out, because there's a depth. It's not just owning this team. There's something there that it's tangible. You're doing good. You're growing something. You're running a business. Oh, and by the way, we're also supplying this hope for other people.
Yeah.
Not just at a racetrack, in places that you're never going to meet these people.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I mean, it's that's the whole thing about bringing the faith side of it in is. It's bringing hope to people. There's a lot of hopeless people out there.
Oh, there sure is.
So that's what we want to do. And so I hope we can change some lives along the way. That's what we're about.
That's an awesome start. Congratulations on a successful first season. That is really cool. Derek, if we had those successful seasons, we would be doing pretty well.
Hopefully one day. Yeah, we'll get there someday. But no, it was a pleasure having you. Look up Matt Bell, Facebook, Instagram, HBI Racing, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, HBITax.com is your business.
Yep.
You guys are everywhere. So, look up Matt Bell. I can't wait to do it again someday.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. And for Derek Schaefer with DBS Custom Fabrication and Handyman Services. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I am Trey Heath with Michelle and Trey Real Estate. Thank you, Matt Bell, for joining us. HBI Racing. Look for him Saturday afternoon.
Yep.
Saturday afternoon on Peacock,
Charlotte, North Carolina.
USA Network, Charlotte, North Carolina, ZMAX Raceway, the first round of the SMX Playoffs.
Yes, sir. It's going to be exciting.
Can't wait.
This has been episode 26. We will see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Good.